Danke, Jesus, dass wir wieder miteinander am Tisch sitzen dürfen. Dass du so gut für uns sorgst.
Jesus liebt dich. Trotz allem, egal was passiert ist.
León, buenas tardes. Bienvenidos a la rueda de prensa de la película de UNSCHULDIGE, sorry for my German, UNSCHULDIGE, The Innocent. Para hablarnos hoy de la película tenemos aquí aparte de su equipo técnico y artístico. Y bueno, los presento, empezando por el extremo. Tolga Dilsis, productor. Anna Tenta, actriz. Thomas Schubbach, actor. Simon Jacquemet, el director de la película. Judith Hoffman, la protagonista de la película. Noemi Schreiber, actriz también. Urs Peter Wolters, actor. Y Aurelius Eisenreich.
Actors and the producers and the cast. So therefore, before starting, I would like to ask, to break the ice, Simon, the director, I would like to say that it's not the first time that Simon has come to San Sebastian, is that correct? He was in the competition of new directors in 2014 with the film Krieg, his first film, and his second. So therefore, I think this is a significant step vis-a-vis that film. This film is a bit more ambitious. It's much more mature. Can you explain how the idea emerged to make the film?
So the film came from, and why do you say it?
I mean, it came from a very banal thing. It came just from the character, and it was a character that I saw years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, in a very simple TV report. And it was a woman who had whose fiancé was just convicted to a life sentence, and then this woman kind of reappeared in my thoughts like over years, and at some point I even had a kind of a dream about this same character, and then I started writing the story, and it was rather really starting from this character and images and themes and putting it all together.
Okay. No sé si hay.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes. There's a question in the third row. Good afternoon. I would like to know what's oniric in the film, how much is real, how much is oniric, and whether that the regrets of this woman are sufficient for all the punishment that she goes through later on.
Yes, I think the question of what is real and what is not, I think it should not be answered so clearly, because what I try in the film is that there is no layer of truth that is kind of superior to what the character experiences, and I try to make the audience be really in the same position that like Ruth, that it's really not clear what is the reality. And the second part was about if it's justified that she suffers so much, maybe something like this. And no, probably not. I guess not. She in the end she didn't make many mistakes, but she's sucked into a current where she cannot get out so easily.
Any further questions? Yes? First up front, and then we'll go to the question in the back. Hi, Gonzalo Hurtado from Peru. Question is for Judith. Judith, I want to congratulate you. You play an incredible role, and being such a complex character who walks the line between abnormality and normality at the same time. How difficult was it to construct this character and to achieve that final register? Can you talk about the process of how you discovered that your character, the character that you portray in the film? How did you construct it?
Well, I didn't really construct it because Simon did it. He wrote the script and I just followed it. So I mainly concentrated on playing this role and playing the scenes, and not. Sometimes I ask myself about why she does things, but then again, I just had confidence in Simon's work, and I discovered a lot today because I saw it for the first time on a big screen. So I'm kind of I'm not in a state to talk about it really deeply, because I tried to figure out what I just saw, and I think yeah, she just lives the wrong life with this church, and it talks about a lot of topics, this film, about the church, about which life you choose, what decisions you make, and we prepared ourselves because in the way that we went to different churches and watched the ceremonies. I talked to friends, and I discovered that lots of friends had contact to free churches and to people who talked in tongues and had those experiences. That's completely not in my life. Doesn't exist at all. So I just try to concentrate on doing the scene and not think about too much about the rest of it. Yeah, and not explain everything by showing, not showing too much.
Quizá podríamos ampliar esta pregunta, ya que tenemos.
Can we extend that question, because we've got the cast as well, the other actors? Could they tell us a bit? Could you tell us the rest of the cast, because the relationships between the characters are worked intuitively, that is to say, something that you don't see on camera, but there are relationships that are very subtly reflected, because the rest of the cast explain how it was to get into your characters as well? This is for the rest of the actors, okay? Who's going to break the ice? Come on. Shall we start from the end? Up to you.
Part was very interesting because I was always interested when I went to school with 16 years old. I began to compare the different religions and so on. And it was very interesting, this part in this film, because first of all, it wasn't clear what is this character about. And we could find something like this, like that, because I think if you are a guru, a priest, or something like that, you are always also playing a role. You have your guidelines, you have your dogmas and all these things, and you have to show your church or your group and things like that. And that was very interesting to find the character behind this person, because you don't see the real person. You see a mask, or you don't know really who he is. That was very interesting. And the only question I have, who does really know the truth? All these several groups and religions, and everyone is saying, it's me. That's the question.
Maybe Noemi now, maybe? Could you?
So,
Wie du deine Rolle erarbeitet hast, oder wie du?
Vielleicht kannst du erzählen, dass du gar nicht Schauspielerin bist, sondern das ist ja interessant für sie, dass du noch nicht viel gespielt hast und nicht professionelle Schauspielerin.
yeah. Also for me, it was the first time when I played in a movie, and I found my character really interesting. So it's a girl that's it's 70 years old, and I think she realized that something happened with her mother, and she realized her mother is maybe she's not silly, but also she has her own problem, and she will find her own, she will find her identity. So for me it was, I'm grow up in a Christian family, so I'm in a free church, but the rule was for me really different, because my family was always like that I could do what I want. It was always, they leave us our own, that we can make our own decisions, yeah. And yeah.
Okay.
So yes, for me it's the first time too. I play in a movie. My life was before the movie was hide and seek, and in the movie as well, I think. So it's my part.
So we all just played ourselves.
You want to add something? Yes?
I'm personally very fond of the work of Simon after I saw Grieg, and I really, really wanted to be part of it. So when I got this part as the wife of the priest, I built my part really on the friendship between me and Ruth, and that she genuinely feels for her friend, and she has this fear of losing her as well. So there's this like her own loneliness that you know, is like sneaking through the worry of her friend, and that was my approach to portray this part, and not just to make it like as the boring priest wife, so to have to give it more flavor, you know, to give it more personality. And that was my journey. I don't know if it was visible. So.
Gracias. Teníamos ahí.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. You were talking about these religious communities, but I would like to talk about two things that I don't know at all, which are antagonic initially, but are reflected in the film. When you prepared the film, these religious communities that appear, these free churches, like these sex clubs, for example, I don't know any of these realities, by the way, personally, but when you prepared all of this, is this based upon environments? The religious free churches do exist, for example. I would like to know to what extent they have a real impact upon people in Germany, because those types of communities, they're more related to the United States, but whether they have a strong, those types of religious groups, do they have a strong influence in Germany? And also these sex clubs, for example, did you document yourself? Do they exist as such, or does that correspond more to a fantasy? Or are they really like that? That's what I'm getting at.
I don't know if the translator spoke from Germany or if I mean, it's Switzerland, and it is actually true that these evangelical churches are, I think it's the only part of Christian religion that is really growing, and it's very strongly growing. I mean, the Catholics and the Protestants are losing members all the time, but these churches are really, really strong. And yeah, and there are many different variations of them. I think, and I went. I don't have a background, a religious background, but I went to a lot of different churches, and I had maybe my main church that I went almost every Sunday. But also the scale is very diverse. I think there are some of them that are really quite open and progressive, and that where I couldn't find anything critical, but then there are others which I found very critical, that are, for example, targeting very strongly teenagers, and they really try to, they have extremely good shows and extremely good marketing to really grab young people to become members. And so I think it is a big trend in Europe, I guess, and in Switzerland too. And maybe it's a reaction on the complicated times in the world that this kind of desire to have some answers and something to grab is getting bigger, or maybe even the desire for spirituality and to go crazy and to sing and speak in tongues is quite big. And the sex club thing. I mean, this is it's of course it was a fantasy. I mean, the whole scene is almost like not clear if it's dream or real. But then the thing is, this club really exists in Switzerland. It's half an hour from Zurich, and it's huge. It's like it has this whole thing with the pool. It's much bigger. It has like 3 levels, dungeon, everything. So. Yeah, it exists, and of course the only thing that doesn't exist is this tunnel and underwater like this doesn't exist. The rest is kind of real like this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you didn't mean that the sex club is connected to the churches, right? Or did you say that? No, okay. It's not part of the church. But I just wanted to say, to those churches, we visited a church that is called ICF, and I think they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they do ceremonies like concerts, and it's very seducing because you sing along like a karaoke, and I enjoyed it very much being there, so I can imagine that they grow. I understand it. And then they do kind of a talk show with a psychologist, remember this war psychologist, and he talks about his programs he does and about pain therapy and things like that. It just comes very natural, everything. You sing and you dance and you talk about important things, and then, yeah, it's very seducing to be a part of this community. And I think ICF is okay, but then there are other communities that are more like the ones we portrayed in the film, that don't let you go. Yeah.
¿Hay más preguntas?
Any further questions? Yes, here in the front. I would insist upon good and evil, the devil, and above all, that regret that she has of changing the head, of acting as God. She's changing the head on the primate, and she acts as if she was God. That symbolism. How did you introduce that into the film? That it's true, the spectator imagines it, but how did you have it in your head before you shot the film?
So it was not so theoretical when I developed it. I think the first maybe the first treatment or something, I wrote it really quite intuitively. That maybe even the very end was something that when I first wrote it, I didn't have many theories behind it. I just felt, okay, it has to be like this. So the monkey, it cannot be. It has to live in the end. And this whole thing when she, with the regret, I think she, at this point, she has already decided to kind of not wanting to stay in this life or so. And I think this kind of thing when she puts the head back on probably the original body, she just tries to make things right. That was my idea, to put things in order again, and she has already fallen from her belief, I think, and maybe to give one last chance to. I think she's serious when she asks that and wants to give a last chance, and it doesn't happen.
Excuse me, but why do you say she plays God? Because the scientists play God in her. In her belief, she cannot, how do you say, she cannot turn off the breathing machine of the first ape who gives his head. So she's just, as you said, bringing things back to order. You understand? She's not playing God, but the scientists are playing God. No, that's just, no. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. Thank you.
Sí.
Yes, any further questions? Yes. And also related to this, it's a film. Does it leave some hope because it's such an intense anguish, anxiety of the character? Doesn't find answers in science or in religion. She evades everything, and the open is intentionally open. And it's also a bit fantastic because it leaves the spectator, allows the spectator to make their own decisions or draw their own conclusions. I would like to ask you whether it's a film that, despite everything, offers hope or only leaves us at anguish and uncertainty and the lack of certainty.
The film has a happy end. I think maybe I find it even a bit too much hope, or I mean, you could even say everything turns out really well for everyone almost. But I find it important that there is always a little bit, that is ambiguous. That is kind of a bit of a bitter happy end, or you cannot be completely sure if what happens, even with her, if it's actually true or if it's kind of an afterlife. And I think the film, what I maybe wanted to do is to, at least on an emotional level, to end with something that gives hope. But when you think about it again, my intention was that the film should really rather ask a quite clear question than to give answers, because this is what for me makes belief, because belief is created by questions where you cannot find the answer. Only through believing you can answer it for yourself, and that's what the end of the film and the whole film does, hopefully, with the audience.
Yo sí me gusta.
I would like to ask a question, and that's about Simone, especially, and Judith, for example. You could probably answer and talk about the visual aspects and of the film. It's a film, and as we're saying, you mix what is real and what is not real, and how do you put these places and images? How do you stage it? There's no music, for example, in the film. There aren't elements that reinforce or intensify the unreal, but elements are introduced that are very diverse. Judith, how did you manage to achieve that balance from the real scenes and the so-called unreal scenes, if you catch what I'm saying?
I didn't. The not reality, or the fantasy, or the question, is it real or not? I didn't question myself. I didn't ask myself, because I had to do it. So it was always real. You always played real, and it's just the editing or putting together, or the things the audience thinks, then makes it unreal, or just the chronology of the scenes, or the priest comes and says he's dead, or the friend comes, he's dead, but he's here. But for me, everything was real, so I didn't bother about that.
Yeah, and I think it would also not be the right approach, because of course for the character also everything is real. So I think it was exactly the right thing for her to take everything as reality. And I think we also talked sometimes a bit more about the backgrounds. I think we always had kind of a realistic explanation for everything that happens in the film.
It's just the doubts, in between the scenes, when Ruth has doubts, when she thinks, what am I going crazy or not? But that's real too.
Claro. No, y Simón, respecto a...
And Simón, as regards the decisions of how to film all of this, all of Ruth's world, of the character, how did you make the decisions? Could you explain a bit about how you decided to shoot all of this, everything that you showed in the film, especially vis-a-vis Ruth's character?
I mean, yeah, for me, I developed the film really a lot through the character. So for me, it's very natural that the camera would also follow the character. So maybe when I think about the film at the first moment, I even rather think almost first person, like in the eyes of the character. But to make a film first person from Ruth's perspective would be maybe not so. Would be very difficult and not so interesting. So I think it's quite close to kind of a first-person perspective, very close, rather showing what she sees and not showing her so much. And I think also in terms of the locations and the colors and everything, I try to make it seem kind of realistic. And we didn't change that much about the locations. I mean, it's all locations that exist more or less like this, but then it was rather through the choice of these empty environments that I find really interesting and also very specific also for Switzerland, that this atmosphere that kind of reflects the inner emptiness or being lost of her.
Mm-hmm. And no music.
And no music, yeah. But this is a long thing because I think I never use music. I never ever. Yeah, maybe I did one short film, but I really never use music. But I'm not the only one. A lot of people do that because for me it's always cheating a little bit if you use music because it's so powerful, and I know how to do it probably, but I find it. It's a bit cheating if you use film music.
Tendríamos tiempo para una última.
Time for one last question if anyone wants to ask a question. If not, I would like to finish this press conference. And as we've got the producers here with us, Aurelius and Olga, could you explain how you set up this project? When one sees the film, it makes sense and it's very coherent, but on the paper, on the script, on paper, you were thinking, what can come of this? So how was it to make the decision to get involved and to form part of this film and this project?
First of all, the complete start of point was Simon's first film, his debut, which was an amazing work. So this was like a backwind we had when we started with this project. And we should mention here that this film we produced is our first feature film we produced as this company. And I'm quite proud about everybody who is here on stage and also about all our supporters and partners. And so as I said, his debut film gave us a lot of backwind, but during the development we felt his same strong vision as in his first feature film. But the triggering point, I think, was when we went to Cinemarkt, and we had really great response in terms of possible co-producers, and also and gained a big partner there, the ZDF, das kleine Fernsehspiel. And this triggered a lot for us because it gave us also, it helped us to stand up and also to, as a young production company and as young producers, to find the partners also inside Switzerland. But to be honest, it was the whole structure. When you build on yeses, everything seems so easy, you know, so I can compare it now to another project. So I'm just happy that this one worked out that well. Not to forget our partners from the Federal Office of Culture, the Swiss National Television, the Zurich Film Foundation. I mean, they were strongly backing us. So it was overall a very positive production from the beginning until today. And yeah, we're very happy about that. And to see the full audience here. Thank you for everything, San Sebastian.
Muchísimas gracias a ustedes.
Thank you very much to you. Well, okay. If there are no further questions, I just want to wish you a lot of luck with the film here in the festival and all future festivals that you're going to attend and all your careers in all of the countries where you're going to be able to see the film. Thank you very much for coming along. Thank you.
you.